Hi, my name's Alex Ropak, and I'm one of the assessment officers here at Creative Australia. And I'm joined today by Flora Wong, musician, educator, creative producer, and researcher from Queensland. Flora, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. My pleasure.
Flora was also a peer assessor for Creative Australia in the previous peer pool from 2022 to 2024. And so we're about to dive in and talk about some of her reflections on that process. But before we do that, uh, Flora, why don't you tell us a bit about your work and what you do as a musician?
Yep. My background is as a musician. I mostly play the violin and a few other bits and bobs. I've worked with ensembles including Nonsemble, Matthew's Obscure Orchestra, Tango, Enigmático, and a whole host of other groups. And I've worked as a session musician, an orchestral musician, um, and all sorts of things. Also as a music teacher. I'm a creative producer as well, so I've been the co-director of Dots+Loops for several years, and a sort of core performer in that series for quite a long time. And I'm also a researcher. I've been researching community music in Australia with the Creative Change Project for the last few years. So yeah, I wear a lot of hats, and one of them was being an assessor.
Fantastic. So, the first question I'd love to ask you, for the benefit of people who are maybe preparing for their first meeting in the peer pool 2025 to 27, or thinking about applying in the future to become a peer assessor in the next pool, is what would you tell incoming peers about what to expect about the process of peer assessment and including the time commitment needed?
Mm. Um, it is a large bit of work to take on, especially if you're a busy creative. So my advice is to make sure you really look at your schedule and block out time for yourself. And it's not just the hours. I think for me, I've always found it easiest if I block out several days, or at least blocks of time in several days in a row, where I can um, do it in chunks, because basically you do have to read a lot of applications, and you need time to sort of digest that. And for some people, that might look like doing it in a big block, spending a whole day going through applications. For others, it might actually look more like putting aside a few hours each day to come back to it, so that you're sort of fresh and sort of energized for each sort of, I guess, marking or scoring session for yourself. Um, and so it is a lot about, I guess, being organized with your time, having a sort of process for going through the applications, and remembering, making notes for yourself, so you remember, what stood out about applications to you. And then also adding a little bit of chunk of time on the end to review as well, because you do sort of learn a lot as you're doing it. And so by the time you get to the end of your list, you might want to go back and reassess some of the earlier applications as well.
Absolutely. So tell us something about the meeting itself. Once you get in the room with your fellow peers, uh, does everyone agree? What should you be prepared for?
Well, the beauty of the process, I think, is that there are, people from different backgrounds and different areas of practice within music in the room. And so there might be people who specialize in different genres of music. There might be people who work in more of an industry role, or yeah, just working in, I guess, all different facets of music making and facilitating music happening for communities in Australia. So that means that everyone comes to it with different experiences and different, I guess, sometimes different values, different priorities in terms of what they look for. And all of that is important, because obviously when we're looking for music that Creative Australia wants to fund, we want to look at things that talk to, all different types of music making, and is relevant for all different members of our communities. So I would say come ready to be ready to share your thoughts about applications that really stood out to you. Mostly ones that I think, if you really focus on the strengths, things that really struck you as being particularly strong applications, or things that made them really distinctive in the pool that you were assessing. Maybe at times it might be worth also, making notes about why you thought particular applications were weak or didn't meet criteria, just so that you can clearly articulate that. Be ready to discuss it and be ready to listen to other perspectives. And that's part of the process. I think you learn a lot just by being able to speak with the other peers about it.
So let's talk a little bit about what you do learn. Can you tell us a little bit about the impact that being a peer assessor has had for you, either on your personal or creative or professional development?
Yeah, it's definitely made me a better grant writer, of course, because you just read so many of them and you see the different approaches that different individuals or groups take to putting together their application, the different way that they communicate about their projects. Um, and assemble different types of supporting materials. For me as an artist, it's also really, I guess, inspiring, because you do see such a wide range of different projects that it does obviously prompt a lot of reflection for yourself in terms of your practice about what you might like to, um, I guess, try or be sort of led by. There might be something that really prompts, oh, I haven't thought about doing it that way, or I hadn't tried that before. So yeah, that's really valuable. And also, just as an artist, I think it can also give you a really clear idea of what types of activities you do that are really suitable for funding through Creative Australia. And maybe it helps you understand what projects you might have on the go that are better funded through other sources or supported in different ways as well. So all of that, I think, is really valuable.
Yeah, it's a great insight. And just to finish up, what are Flora's hot tips for new peer assessors, or perhaps something that you wish someone had told you when you were starting out in the process, some of those things that you learned by doing?
Mm. I definitely think it's something that's really different for everyone, because we all have different ways of working. Don't be afraid to ask the people at Creative Australia for support if you need some kind of assistance in terms of being able to engage with that process more effectively. Just ask for it; they're really helpful. I use the scoring spreadsheet. I find that the easiest way to stay organized with all of the different applications, but I added columns for myself so that I could keep really comprehensive notes as I was marking, so that when it came time to actually review the applications before the meeting and then also during the meeting with the other peers, I could easily go back to my notes and see what I had written down about each application that led me to score it a particular way. So that it's really, yeah, you're not sort of racking your brains, because there's so much so much to get across. Color coding I find really helps me, so I set up a few things in my spreadsheet so I could easily find certain applications by the way that I colored them. And also having I actually made a column for the feedback codes as well. I found that really helpful, just to make sure I was being consistent in my application of them. So yeah, there are a few things that made the process easier for me as I went.
Fantastic. And all of those things, for any new assessors watching, are things that the assessment team is there to guide you through, and we're always available to help. So thank you so much, Flora, for sharing your insights into the process, and for all your contributions as a peer in the previous pool. It's great that Creative Australia has the benefit of all those different strings to your bow as an artist. And thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.